So to Selhurst Park, Crystal Palace at home to Villa. Palace bundled out of the EFL Cup. Villa charging on, winning 6-0. Palace are unchanged from the team that won at Old Trafford. Villa, they had Mings in, and he's being selected in the England squad. So he was cock-a-hoop. Early chance for MacArthur. He managed to blast over from the penalty spot. Slop was causing Villa problems, and a free kick from Milaholovic, I still can't pronounce that man's name, was pushed wide by Heaton. Tame first half, really. No surprise that it was goalless. Into the second half then, and Trezeguet for Villa had a chance, but his header was pretty tame. And Coyote's shot was a highlight for Palace. But generally, both attacks were misfiring. Then Trezeguet stupidly managed to get a second yellow, so he was off after fouling Sahar. Milaholovic had a shot which forced a great save from Heaton, but we got to the 73rd minute and finally the deadlock was broken, and it was Ayew still in for Benteke. He collected a ball wide of the penalty spot, managed to evade two defenders, and his shot went in, and that was 1-0 to Palace. Villa, now more urgency from them. Grealish was looking more promising, and as we approached the final minutes, Grealish, charging forward, burst into the penalty box, and as he fell over, he fed Lansbury, who slotted the ball home. But then the goal was disallowed by the referee, claiming that Grealish had dived before he laid the ball off, which seems astonishing, because how would you go for a dive and then play in somebody to score? So consequently, Dean Smith was rather irate at the whistle. Palace, although they probably deserved it on the balance of play, were fortunate to not have the game pulled back to 1-1. So they took the game by 1-0. So to the London Stadium, West Ham at home to Norwich. Both teams have had reasonable starts, but certainly the home side will be looking for 3 points here. They got off to a good start as well, early possession. Anderson had an early opportunity blocked. 24 minutes, and their new signing, Haller, he was on hand in the box to convert, following good approach by Masuaku. I don't know whether I've got that pronunciation. Anyway, he supplied the cross, and that was 1-0 to the Hammers. Shortly after that, Cantwell, who'd hit the target in the defeat the week before against Chelsea, failed to head in from a yard out. An astonishing miss, really, but we got to the break. 1-0, an average game, really. Into the second half, Noble managed to get to the byline, and his cross was found by Yamalenko. His first appearance for just under a year after a terrible injury, and his volley whacked against the post. 56 minutes though, he managed to get his goal, and it followed a couple of defensive lapses. Eventually his sweet left foot forced the ball in the corner, and West Ham were 2 up. They could have got more goals if it hadn't been for Krul in the Norwich goal. He prevented Lanzini's header going in, tipping it over, and then he was there to block 2 further efforts, one with his legs and the other with his hands. There was a late chance from Snodgrass, but again legs, Krul prevented the defeat being worse. Farker, the Norwich manager, wasn't too happy with some of the decisions or lack of decisions by heavy challenges. He felt that VAR hadn't done their job, and he had a point. But there were some other challenges from Norwich that weren't exactly friendly. West Ham, good value, took this game by 2-0. St James's Park then. Newcastle buoyant after that win at by Hart Lane against bottom of the table Watford. Watford haven't won in 6 games. That's for 3 this season and 3 at the end of last. 6 losses in a row is a troubling sign. No Richie for Newcastle, of course. He's going to be out for a while. Jammat started for Watford, and within 2 minutes they got themselves ahead. Hughes capitalising from a deflection from a cleverly shot, and he scooped it past Dubrovka, and that was 1-0. There was a scrap in the penalty box following Joe Linden's shot. Claimed for handball, but it waved away by the referee. And then shortly before half-time, Shah levelled things after Joe Linden's challenge in the air fell kindly for him. So it was 1-1 at the break. Second half was pretty disappointing, to be honest. There were half chances. Foster did well for Hayden. Dubrovnik on 79 pushed a Success's header away from goal, and Pereira on 87 for Watford forced another save from Dubrovka. Muto missed the best chance in added time, but the match ended Newcastle 1, Watford 1. Now to Sunday's fixtures, and I must admit they were both cracking games. First, we were at Goodison Park. Wolves were in town. Wolves, of course, coming off that Europa League triumph against Torino. The question was being asked, would they run out of gas? And I can confirm that Iwobi has been transferred from Arsenal to Everton for £30 million. And so to the action. Everton team news. Delph was making his first start for Everton, and so was Moss Keane, who's come from Juventus. So an impressive set of acquisitions by Everton, and a really good looking midfield now with Delph from Man City, Iwobi and Sigurdsson. And they really did start to gel nicely. 3 minutes, a nice cross from Iwobi was headed just over by Sigurdsson. And then a couple of minutes later, Cody, the Wolves captain, made a bit of a hash of a back pass to Patricio, who flapped at it, and it ended up falling at Richarlison's feet, who lashed it into the net clinically for 1-0. A few minutes later, Traore, who was on from the start and has been for the last 2 or 3 games, managed to get to the byline. He was far too quick for Dania, and his cross was converted a bit scruffily by Saiz. So we were back level after 8 minutes. But don't blink, 11 minutes, a great cross from the right, again by Sigurdsson, and at the far post, Iwobi connects with a nice header which went wide of the keeper across him, and Everton were back in front 2-1, and we only had 12 minutes. So a cracking game. 13 minutes, Pickford denied Wolves an equaliser with a great save, and then another great piece of action, and after 18 minutes an attacking free-flowing game was being seen by the supporters, and I was enjoying it as well. 24 minutes, a chance for Wolves there new acquisition Catroni's shot was blocked and went away for a corner. A little later, Sigurdsson again, full of quality with his delivery. And as I mentioned earlier, Everton's impressive midfield with Delph really looking in charge of things. This is good news for Toffee fans. There was a relatively quiet piece, and then we got to near the break, and Traore again managed to outpace Dania, and he was a real threat in the first half. But at the break, Everton holding the advantage, a slender one by 2-1. Into the second half, initially it was a bit quiet. On 58, Spirito Santo replaced Saiz with Moutinho, and Jolly was on the bench as well, and he came on. So it just goes to show how strength in depth there is now at Molineux. But we got a battle of midfields really. Then on 74 minutes, a long throw into the Everton box, and Bolly managed to out-jump everybody, nudged it on, and Jimenez flew towards the ball, connected with his head. A stray boot connected with his face, but it ended up in the net, and Wolves had levelled the tie. It was 2-2. Silva took Iwobi off, who had a slight knock, I think, replaced him with Bernard, and Calvert-Lewin came on for Moyne Keane, and it did the trick because Dana and Bernard started to link very well, and on 79 minutes Bernard put Dana through. He went to the byline, great cross, and Richarlison, much too strong, jumped above Bolly and headed it in the corner, and so the Toffees were back in front, 3-2. A minute later, another sharp shot from the Brazilian Richarlison was pushed away by keeper Patricio to deny the hat-trick. There was another chance on 86 where the Patricio again responded well to Amina's header, and regrettably Bolly got a second yellow for persistent fouling, which ended it up in a red card, and Wolves ended it with 10. Great game. Wolves looked like they ran out of gas a bit. Delph, a superb performance. I'm giving him man of the match. So the final score at Goodison Park was Everton 3, Wolverhampton Wanderers 2. So the final match of week 4 then, it was the North London derby at the Emirates, Arsenal versus Spurs. Both sides defeats last week, and both really looking to bounce back. Spurs had Vertonghen and Eriksen in from the start. That meant Mora was on the bench with Dele Alli. Arsenal, Sebilas surprisingly on the bench for Arsenal, and Kaslinac in at left back. We believe that Monreal is going back to Spain, and it was that man, Kaslinac, who was on the front foot marauding down the left early on, and he managed to, from a corner, Niles had a shot blocked. Then a quick break by Spurs, and Son managed to feed Demela, whose tame shot by Leno. His tame shot was parried away by Leno, and Eriksen, charging up in support, latched onto it and poked it in the corner for 1-0. This all started from an error by Socrates, but Leno was really at fault for the goal. 17 minutes then, with Spurs 1 up, they nearly got a second, another counter-attack. This time Son tested Leno, who was up to it. 22 minutes, Aubameyang got into the game, and he's crossed to the far post from the left, was met by Pepe, whose header was blocked by Rose, and it went for a corner. 26 minutes, free kick for Arsenal just outside the box. And Pepe, who seemed to be taking everything, free kicks, corner kicks, you name it, curled the shot round the wall, and it just went wide. And then on 37 minutes, another free kick, this time for Spurs. Ericsson on the ball, 35 yards out. His shot was hit cleanly, but Leno pushed it wide. 38 minutes, another break by Spurs. Son managed to weave his way into the box, and he's always threatening. Xhaka, unfortunately, doesn't know how to defend when he's in the box. A crazy challenge, upended Son. Obvious penalty. Harry Kane stepped up, and that was 2-0 to Spurs. Into added time, and Arsenal pressing desperately to try and get something before the break, and a free kick which Lacazette forced to save from Lloris, but in second phase play the ball came to Lacazette again, and his instant control and first time shot hit the back of the net. Lovely goal, 2-1, and that was half time. Arsenal certainly very pleased to go into the break just one in arrears. Into the second half then, and Lacazette again looking sharp and a real threat, but his header was easily dealt with by Lloris. Spurs looking good on the counter, and Son really is shining. I think when he's on the park, the whole of the Spurs attacking group looks more impressive, and he had a left-footed shot that went for a corner from a deflection. Then 55 minutes back at Arsenal. As you probably gathered, this is sort of a really exciting game. Lots of action at both ends. Defences both struggling, and it was Lacazette who managed to lay the ball back to Guendouzi, and his effort was tipped wide by Lloris. And so we got to 58 minutes, and another attack by Spurs, and Harry Kane out of nothing hit the ball, and it hit the post and veered off. Ali came on for Lamela on 59 minutes to try and improve things for Spurs, and Ceballos came on for Pereira on 63. Unai Emery also ringing the changes, and he brought Mkhitaryan on 66 as Lacazette had a slight knock. Ceballos made his impact immediately, warming Lloris's palms from 30 yards. And then on 70 minutes, a great Arsenal goal. Guendouzi on the left hit a peach of a cross into space, and Aubameyang was far too quick for Gomez, and he poked it in with his toe. A really great poacher's goal, and we were back level 2-2. So all to play for in the last 15 minutes. There were half chances at either end. Socrates got himself in a spot of bother. He really does have a temper problem. Son went off, and Celcio came on. And to be honest, neither side really deserved to win it. We got to full time, and the final score honours even. Arsenal 2 and Spurs 2. So that concludes round 4 then. Some great matches, I must admit, particularly Sunday's clashes. I really thoroughly enjoyed those. I still struggle watching Manchester United. I'm probably too emotionally wrapped up in their performance. I suppose on the face of it, a draw at Southampton wasn't such a bad result. The top two look mighty impressive, and they do look head and shoulders above the rest. The Liverpool are at the top now with 12 points from 4 games. City with 10 points, and Leicester have moved into third after their second win, and Vardy looking very impressive. At the bottom, it's much the same. Watford and Newcastle still down there. We're at an international break now, So next week, no Premier League action, and it's time for me to select my goal of the week. Well, I'm really struggling here, but I think I'm going to give it to. I'm going to give it to Richarlison. Sorry, what am I talking about? I'm going to give it to James. James for Manchester United. His shot was an absolute rocket, and I'm selecting that as my goal of the week, with Vardy's opener for Leicester, that lob over the keeper, a thing of beauty. So 2 goals of the week this week. James's for Man U and Vardy's goal for Leicester. Hope you enjoyed the show. We'll catch you again in a fortnight's time for the predictions show.